4 continues now.
Mountain News First at 4 continues.
Strong storms followed by high winds. Sound familiar? We might see something very similar to last Friday and Saturday this week. Meteorologist Evan Hatter has more on what to expect on this First Alert Weather Day. Evan.
Well, that's right, Steve. The First Alert Weather Day in effect for tomorrow and into Saturday, not in effect for tonight. No big weather worries tonight. It's actually a beautiful day outside, but as we head into tomorrow, that's when we start to see the concern for strong to severe thunderstorms. Yeah, here it is. Let's break it down. Strong to severe storms tomorrow evening. We'll see some showers during the day. Winds outside of storms upwards of 40, 50, even can't rule out a gust to 60 miles an hour as you head towards Saturday afternoon. Again, main time for this is going to be late tomorrow evening into early Saturday morning, with more strong winds possible as we head into Saturday afternoon. And again, the main threat is going to be damaging winds in and out of those storms. So let's break down the threat. It's a level 2 risk, basically just east of Interstate 75 and points to the west, the area you see colored in yellow in the western part of the area. Everybody else is in the level 1 marginal risk. The tornado threat is pretty low. It's never necessarily 0, but it is nowhere close to the main threat here. Large hail is pretty low as well. High winds are going to be the big calling card with this one. And again, I can't rule out some localized high water in some spots. But again, these storms are going to be moving fast enough that that's not going to be an issue. Look at how beautiful it is this afternoon. Pikeville Medical Center camera looking beautiful. Low to mid 60s, even some upper 60s across the Cumberland Valley. We'll continue to see the mild weather as we head through the next 12 hours. You see those temperatures dropping. Not a ton. In fact, they'll start to rise into the overnight as we increase the cloud cover. Steve, I'll have the details. I'll be breaking down the very latest and tracking those storms as they head our way in just a few minutes.
All right, Evan, thank you. Senate Bill 150 was overridden in both chambers yesterday in Frankfort. The bill, which would ban gender transition procedures and would not require the use of proper pronouns in schools, among other provisions, has certainly caused a lot of controversy this session. The approval of that bill also caused a lot of reaction around the state capitol. Advocates against SB 150 say although parts of this bill technically go into effect today, they'll continue to fight against the measures. Julia Sandor has more.
It's been a controversial topic all session long at the state capitol. Senate Bill 150, which deals with restricting gender-affirming medical treatments and not requiring educators to use pronouns, among other restrictions and requirements, caused tense debates in both chambers. Now, parts of this bill will take effect.
So I imagine many school administrators and many teachers are very confused about what this is going to look like for them. I know for a fact that trans youth are very confused about what this is going to mean for them. I've heard trans parents talking about, like, should I even send my child to school? Like, what's going to happen to them if I send them to school tomorrow?
Those for the bill say this will protect Kentucky children.
I think that in order for a child's education to be all that it can be, the parents must be involved in that process. I understand that there are many absent parents in the lives of students, but for those parents that wish to be involved in their child's education and wish to know what they are being taught, especially in sensitive areas like human sexuality, this bill allows full parental access and approval.
Students from across the Commonwealth protested outside of the Capitol Wednesday, and more advocates protested in the House, resulting in several arrests.
Just to remember that there are trans adults that are going to continue to show up for you and fight for you.
That was Julia Sandor reporting. Some parts of the bill that can take effect immediately include the use of preferred pronouns and restrictions on assigned bathrooms in schools. We'll have more from Frankfort coming up tonight at 6. Time is running out to settle the issue of the nation's debt limit. Currently, the United States owes foreign investors more than $7 trillion. And if lawmakers do not come to an agreement on this debt, our economy goes into default. The U.S. reached its debt limit earlier this year, and now Congress has until summer to decide how the country will pay its bills. So far, talks on how to settle the issue have remained in a partisan stalemate. This week, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy sent a letter to the White House urging President Biden to start more robust negotiations on the debt ceiling.
If he thinks you just have to raise the debt ceiling, there's not votes in the House to do that. There's not votes in the Senate to do that. If that's the case, Schumer, send us one of those.
Today he said What about $4 trillion in cuts? Well, what are they? A number is not a plan, especially a number that's so vague and amorphous that he doesn't name anything specific at all.
At this point, it's unclear how negotiations will move forward. Russia has arrested a Wall Street Journal reporter on suspicion of espionage. Russia's Federal Security Service says Evan Gershkovich was spying for the American government. They say the U.S. citizen was detained while trying to obtain secret information about one of the Russian military-industrial complexes. The Wall Street Journal website says Gershkovich covers Russia, Ukraine, and the former Soviet Union. The Wall Street Journal says it vehemently denies Moscow's claims of espionage. Gershkovich is the first U.S. journalist arrested in Russia for spying since 1986.
To American citizens residing in Russia is that the travel advisory warning is a level 4 and that they should leave. And if they need assistance doing so, they can get in touch with our mission in Moscow.
So the U.S. urging everyone in Russia to get out, basically. The Kremlin would not comment on whether this was a retaliatory measure after the U.S. arrested a Russian on espionage charges last week. We'll have much more about all of this tonight at 5:30. Vatican officials say Pope Francis is doing better today after being hospitalized yesterday with a respiratory infection. Aides say he slept well through the night, ate breakfast, and read the news at a hospital in Rome. CBS's Chris Livesay has the latest.
He was rushed to the hospital, prompting prayer and sympathy from around the world.
The Pope is ill now, so say an extra prayer for him, but
Just yesterday in St. Peter's Square, at his general audience, the pontiff appeared in good health. Until it was over, climbing aboard the Pope-mobile, wincing in pain. It's become a common sight. Ever since he tore a knee ligament last year, the pontiff is often confined to a wheelchair. When he does walk, he suffers a bad limp, forcing him to cancel both Vatican celebrations and overseas trips. Here at the Gemelli Hospital in Rome, the faithful keep vigil, much as they did in 2021 when he was hospitalized for 10 days for surprise colon surgery. It was diverticulitis, a painful condition that Pope Francis revealed in January has returned. All of it generating persistent rumors that Francis, like his predecessor Benedict, might resign. Now 10 years into his papacy, CBS Vatican consultant Father Anthony Figueiredo recently told us.
How much more time does Francis have to carry out the rest of his agenda?
He has certainly made it clear, unless he's impeded from being a pope, maybe through some mind difficulties, through some illness of the mind, he will continue to be that pope.
Earlier this year, he became the first pontiff in modern history to preside over the funeral of his predecessor. Francis championed that pontiff's brave decision to retire when Benedict was 85. Francis is 86. Remember, Pope Francis is already missing part of a lung from a previous infection as a young man. Sunday is Palm Sunday, the beginning of Holy Week, which runs through Easter. It's the busiest time of the year for the Catholic Church, and now it's unknown if Pope Francis will celebrate it from St. Peter's Square or in his hospital bed. Chris Livesay, CBS News, Rome.
It was just a couple of weeks ago that marked 10 years since he was elected as the current pope. He has held the title since March 13th, 2013. Brazil's former president Jair Bolsonaro returned to the country today for the first time since his election defeat that culminated in thousands of his supporters rioting in protest at the result. Bolsonaro flew back to Brasilia from Florida, where he stayed for 3 months in self-imposed exile after he failed to win re-election in last year's presidential election. Bolsonaro has never formally conceded defeat and filed a petition contesting the result, but it was rejected by the country's electoral court. Coming up on First at 4, we're less than 3 weeks away from the deadline to file your taxes, which means there's still time to see if you can qualify for the Earned Income Tax Credit.
And quiet tonight, but that is decidedly not the case as this system heads in our direction for tomorrow, breaking down the risk for strong storms after this.
WYMT News app offers alerts on breaking stories as they happen, customized to the categories you choose. The WYMT News app, powered by Appalachian Wireless.